Okay, so this is a map created by Canadian nonprofit Native Land Digital. It shows the globe and all the corresponding Indigenous lands. And I'm currently here.
Australia's Daintree forest is now back in the hands of Aboriginal Eastern Kuku-Yalanji people after 4 years of negotiating.
If it's quite new that the federal government is talking about land back, it is not new that Indigenous peoples are.
I can't explain it except that my heart and my spirit is just so full.
To make Canada a good country, we have to believe that we can create an identity that serves us all.
So it's like, we'll do a commission to figure out why everything's so bad. We'll put up a statue or a national holiday to be like, oh my God, we're so sorry. And like, that's kind of the extent. And that way they get to posture as having done all of this stuff. And the general, non-Indigenous population is like, oh my God, so much is changing. We're doing so good. We do land acknowledgements now. Meanwhile, those actions actually do, of course, very little on the day-to-day to improve the lives of Indigenous people. And Indigenous people know this.
This is Riley Yesno, a PhD student at the University of Toronto, and an Indigenous rights activist, writer, and speaker. Riley is speaking to me from Thunder Bay, a city in northwestern Ontario. Just here.
So Landback originated in 2018 on Instagram. This guy named Arnell Tailfeathers had an Instagram page. It's no longer active, but he posted this meme that used the words land back. And it caught like wildfire in the Indigenous community, specifically online sort of meme circles. And then I think people liked it so much because it just so efficiently put language to like what is an ultimate goal and a belief system for Indigenous people. When I describe it to people, I put most simply that I think it's any action that prioritizes putting resources, authority, or jurisdiction directly into the hands of Indigenous people. And so it's always something very actionable.
The agreement is the first time Queensland has transferred the ownership of a national park land in the wet tropics region back to an Indigenous group.
So I think there are several layers to land back. One is just changing people's mindset about where they are and, the history of this place and the contemporary context, that there are living Indigenous communities that are still dealing with the pain of this legacy.
Although the principles of the land back movement have been around for hundreds of years within Indigenous communities, it is now seeing global awareness.
I think a shift of the global norms into the 60s, the dawn of the internet, and just this blatant failure of government policy in the last 20 or so years probably is all coalescing us to this moment.
International Indigenous organizing and then greater attention to environmental decline and climate change has really accelerated attention to Indigenous movements and commitments on the parts of individuals, corporations, and governments to work more collaboratively with Indigenous peoples and to engage in some really liberatory and justice-seeking processes.
If your business model can't sustain itself without exploitation of land and people who live on those lands, I think then maybe your business model shouldn't exist. And I think Indigenous people have always known that that this fight doesn't often happen, or it happens too slowly in courtrooms, in boardrooms. It happens on the streets. Indigenous people showed up and pressured and protested and brought allies up along the way. And so there's more, I think, non-Indigenous people now talking about Indigenous issues than there ever was even 5 years ago.
Non-Indigenous people, businesses, and governments around the world are grappling with their history, and more people are acknowledging the original keepers of the land on which they reside.
I hope that we can build that country together. Miigwech.